Probably ain't that
Listen.
good. Experiment with all the people who were being experimented on with these different drugs, with the syphilis and all this stuff. I can understand most black people, our skepticism. We look at it as this shit came out a lot. It came out faster than a motherfucker.
You said skepticism.
And we know that the most people that COVID-19 affects is people of color.
See,
not only just black people, but people of color in general.
But see, that's
that means even the people who
have.
don't want to admit that you're a person of color, yeah, you're a person of color too.
But this, okay, just for argument's sake, that is true. But prior to COVID-19 even becoming a thing of what we call now a pandemic, the problem is that all the pre-existing conditions was predominantly in a demographic of people of color in the first place.
Son, you talk a lot of shit, but you down.
People that are prone to becoming infected with the COVID-19
Well, people with
pre-existing conditions.
Right.
So pre-existing conditions is when we're talking about people with, of course, like either the diabetic, high blood pressure, obese,
heart disease,
any type of medical condition that they have, that would be, they would be more susceptible,
susceptible, whatever.
See, this what happened.
Yeah, I gotta correct them. But keep going. No, fuck it.
See, I done lost my goddamn train of thought.
They were more susceptible to the disease.
Okay, yes, right. But that's right. They was more likely to get the disease. So, okay.
Not get the disease, but to have more complications because of the disease.
Be more exposed to it.
Right, okay.
All right, so if they're more exposed to it, then it is fair to say that they're likely to have COVID-19 and have a lot more quicker than any other.
Have more complications. Not that we're more quicker to have it, but we're to have more complications from it. It's more people of color or black people, let's be specific, who are dying because of this. While we have a lot of white people who are saying, this disease ain't affecting us like it affects y'all. We need to open up. What y'all need to do is get better in y'all healthcare.
All right. It's the fake. I ain't even say the fake wokeness. I want to say that this presumption of a person being woke or just being conscious or just having some knowledge, and then just having that type of knowledge make them feel as though that they're a little more awake than a person that's not aware of something that they know.
And let me tell you something. If you hit a man in time, his wounds will heal. And if you steal from a man, you can replace what you steal. And always cross in the green, never in between. Honorable Elijah Muhammad Ali floats like a butterfly and stings like a bee.
Okay.
When the Flint, Michigan water issue came about, it was addressed immediately once it became an awareness in media, in mainstream media. But it's still more attention is being focused on it because, like I say, it's a bigger issue than just trying to do something. Segregation was a law.
Okay.
Segregation was enforced. So when segregation is a law and is enforced, that means that you was only subjected to live in a certain area, in a neighborhood, in a certain community. We're not worrying about you going to other different communities and intermingling with them.
We're going to observe you in your own community of what happens without you having to affect everybody else.
So whoever you affect within your community, it's only in your community because the laws of segregation is enforced, but you don't only live in
like a lab rat. We can observe you in a lab, and the lab being the disenfranchised poverty communities.
Absolutely. So segregation doesn't exist no more. Only just a matter of a personal choice of us as people. We're more inclined to live with people that we assimilate with the most, right? But it's not a law that make us have to say we can only live in this certain part. So it rules out the idea that they just testing black folks with this vaccination because you're not segregated in one area. So guess what? If they're gonna test just black people, what makes you think that if they intentionally injecting them with COVID-19, that they're not gonna go and be with somebody that they're friend or white colleagues or whatever and expose them to?
Well, let me sum this up for you, and I think that I can make this easier for you. It's easier now for us to say that we can't do it within segregation because we don't have segregational laws, and we can't just isolate this to a certain community because we are so broad now while we have the civil rights movements and everything. So it's harder for us to say that this is made for black people because we are free to move wherever we want to move. Now, this is where the skepticism comes at. When we study the history of America and we go back into the 1920s or 30s, all the way up to about 68,
Right.
we can say this. Black people were isolated to blacks only, water fountains and all that stuff. So it's easily to keep them in a bubble.
It keeps them.
The reason why it's so hard to keep us in a bubble now is because if anybody comes with that law right now, we can sue them. And a lot of people ain't trying to go with that. So it's harder now to do it. But back,
It's an odd thing to say. It's because, you know, Democrats or Republicans didn't necessarily was black people was between a rock and a hard place.
right.
They was in a dilemma, right? So it's like what you doing is you dealing with a double-edged sword that can either cut you or it can either protect you. It depends on how the hell they feel at that particular time or in that day.
Y'all finished or y'all done?